In this screencast, we will examine a few other hormones of the endocrine system and the effects of age on the endocrine system of the human body. The learning objectives of this screencast are as follows: describe functions of thymosin and melatonin and their organs of secretion, define the placenta and list hormones that it produces during pregnancy, and lastly, explain what happens to the endocrine system in general as humans age. The hormones that are presented in this screencast do not appear on your hormones and properties table, and you will not have to know all of those properties for these hormones. You don't have to know their chemistry, you don't have to know their mechanism of action, you don't have to know if they're regulated by positive or negative feedback. You only have to know what's described here in the learning objectives. If you recall, the pineal gland is part of the diencephalon. It is very close to the corpora quadrigemina, found very close also to the third ventricle of the brain. It secretes melatonin, which helps establish the body's sleep and awake cycles. And when we sleep, melatonin levels tend to rise, and then during the day when we are awake, they tend to fall. It may have other functions that have yet to be substantiated. There is still ongoing research to decrypt any other potential functions that the pineal gland and its secretion of melatonin serves in the human body. The thymus is an organ located posterior to the stomach in the thoracic region. It is largest in infants and children, and then as one ages, it tends to get smaller and certainly atrophy into adulthood. I like to describe the thymus as where T cells or T lymphocytes, those are immune cells, go to college. T cells migrate to the thymus where they are exposed to thymosins. Those are hormones produced by the thymus, and those hormones are used to educate, if you will, the T cells such that they don't attack the cells of the body, so that they only attack foreign cells. So in that way, the thymosins and the thymus are very important in developing the immune system. As I said at the very beginning of our discussion of the endocrine system, we would only be covering the major endocrine organs and the hormones that they produce. But there are many other hormone-producing tissues of the body. There are parts of certainly the digestive system, the stomach, the small intestine, that produce hormones. The kidneys produce very important hormones. Even your heart produces hormones. And then there's various other scattered endocrine cells throughout the body that produce hormones. The placenta produces some very important hormones that help maintain pregnancy and prepare the female body for the birthing process. Just to make sure you understand what the placenta is, so you have the umbilical cord, which connects the child to the mother, and where that umbilical cord attaches, that is the placenta. The placenta is basically where the fetal circulation and the maternal circulation come into very close, I don't want to say contact, because they don't really contact one another, but they come into very close proximity to one another, and that allows for the exchange of gases and nutrients and waste products between the fetal circulation and the maternal circulation. This placenta is a very important endocrine organ because it produces a host of very important hormones. So as I said previously, the placenta produces several hormones that either maintain pregnancy or play a role in paving the way for delivery of the baby. Human chorionic gonadotropin, or HCG, is produced very early in pregnancy. In fact, this is actually the hormone that's detected in the urine during the early pregnancy tests. That HCG stimulates the corpus luteum to continue producing estrogen and progesterone after ovulation, and that helps maintain the endometrium level and pregnancy. Third month of pregnancy, believe it or not, the placenta actually produces more estrogen and progesterone than the ovaries do. And this helps, again, maintain pregnancy, and it also stimulates the breasts for production of milk. Another hormone produced by the placenta is elastin, and what it does is it increases the elasticity of pelvic ligaments and the pubic symphysis in preparation for parturition or birth. What happens to the endocrine system as we age? Well, for the most part, until we hit old age is typically referred to as 70 and older. Until we hit 70 or older, our endocrine organs tend to operate quite smoothly. One of the exceptions might be the ovaries, which of course brings about menopause when there is a lack of estrogen. And of course, there are problems that are associated with reduced estrogen, such as osteoporosis, which we'll talk about when we get to the skeletal system. There's an increased risk of hypertension and also cardiovascular disease that's associated with reduced levels of estrogen. Growth hormone does tend to decline in production with age, and in general, there is a decline in endocrine gland output as we age. Let's review the objectives of the screencast. Describe functions of thymosin and melatonin and their organs of secretion. Define the placenta and list hormones that it produces during pregnancy. And lastly, explain what happens to the endocrine system in general as humans age. This marks the end of our discussion on the endocrine system.